Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ben here. I'm back again today doing another video, and the subject of today's video is going to be me ranking all sixth men in the NBA going into next season. So I did this for position by position for starters, so I did all starting centers and so on and so forth up to point guards. And today I'm going to be doing it for sixth men. So I'll be ranking them from 30 to the best at number 1 and basically giving a little bit of my thoughts along the way, but not too much because getting through 30 players is a lot. So without further ado, let's get into it. At number 30, I have Jarrett Culver for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think this is going to be a good player as a Timberwolves fan. I sure hope it is. I'm ranking him this low basically just because he's unproven at this point, and any draft pick has the potential to be a bust. And I just figured the last spot is fair enough for him because actually the NBA has some good six men out there. He is a very explosive player. He has the potential to be a good defender, but we'll just have to see. At 29 for the Memphis Grizzlies, I have Kyle Anderson, who I don't believe will be starting. I believe he'll be coming off bench. He is a dude that does everything okay, but nothing good. He can shoot it a little, he can defend somewhat, he can score somewhat, but he doesn't do anything good, I wouldn't say. And for that reason, I have him this low. It's just because he's just basically a body out there. 28, I have James Ennis of the 76ers. 76ers have one of the weaker benches in the league. James Ennis is a dude who's just the definition of, again, okay. He can do a little bit of everything for you. He can shoot a little bit. He can defend a little bit. He can't really ball handle or create offense at all, but he's basically a poor man's Trevor Ariza. At 27, I have Patty Mills for the Spurs. Again, another dude who's not bad by any means. He's just a good rotational piece, and he shouldn't be an NBA starter. And he's not because he's going to be coming off the bench for the Spurs. I do believe he's one of their better bench players, though, because I believe Rudy Gay will be starting for the team this year, so I don't have Patty Mills that high. But that's where I'm at with him. At 26, I have Isaiah Thomas. He definitely has room to go up here, but I just have him this low because we don't really know what to expect from him because he really hasn't played in the NBA like significant time in about 2 years, really since he was in Boston. Because the Cleveland Los Angeles season, it just seemed like he was being tossed around and no one really wanted him. And then last year, he barely played at all for Denver. I think he played like maybe around 20 games for Denver or something like that, and then didn't even play in the playoffs. So let's see if this year, Washington being the terrible team that they will be, if they play him significant minutes and bring him in off the bench after Ish Smith to score 15 a night or something. 25, Jeff Green. A guy who I liked Jeff Green a lot actually, but another kind of like a more of a result of being this low on this list because Utah doesn't have a great bench compared to him being like a 25th best bench player. He really shouldn't be a sixth man on an NBA team at this point. Is my point is the thing I'm getting at here. He should be more like an eighth man, but I think he will be like the sixth man for the Jazz just because they don't have really a great. They don't really have a power forward, so to speak. They'll be playing Joe Ingles there, but he's much more comfortable at small forward, I would say. So I think that he'll see some significant minutes backing up both forward slots for the Jazz. And he's a good spacing player. Next, I have Dario Saric at 24. Very similar player to Jeff Green, but just, in my opinion, a better shooter and like 5 years younger. And that is why I have Dario Saric a spot higher. There's not much more reasoning besides that right there. So there you go. At 23, I have Thaddeus Young for the Bulls, a dude who's very serviceable, still a good defender, I'd say, like above average, maybe not good, above average. On offense, he kind of gets like working man's buckets, and his offense isn't pretty, but he'll score and he'll kind of clean up the boards better than you'd think for a dude who's only like 6'7", 6'8". And he'll find ways to score around 11 points per game and get about 6 rebounds a game for a relatively short power forward. Next, Kyle Korver for the Bucks. I don't believe he'll start. I believe they'll have Wes Matthews starting, so I have Kyle Korver here. He'll be a really good spacing option for this team, kind of like a slightly worse version of JJ Redick. Um, but still, he's probably going to shoot like 40% from three, so that's why I ranked him not lower than this on this list. He'll probably score around 9 to 10 points a game, I would expect. Next, I have Malik Beasley for the Nuggets. Very good player, very underrated. I expect him to move up this list over the year, but as for right now, I'm just ranking him here. A dude he is sort of a combo guard in that you could run him a little bit at point, not much at all though. But he's about 6'4", 6'5", so he's got some okay size for a shooting guard. If you did play him a little bit at point guard, he'd have great size for a point guard. But for a shooting guard, he's got decent size and pretty explosive and an average to above average defender. So he just needs to develop a little bit more, and I'd be a little bit more confident with his placement on this list. At 20, I have Jordan Clarkson, who's basically instant offense inefficiently. He's basically take Isaiah Thomas and put him in a 6'6" body, and you've got Jordan Clarkson. And take away the injuries, too, I suppose. He's going to score between 15 to 18 points per game, shooting like 42% from the field. That's good enough for him to be at this 20th spot on this list. He's never really been on a winning team, I don't think, now that I think about it. He was on the Cavs 2018 when they got swept in the finals, but besides that one year where LeBron basically just carried the entire team, he's never been part of a winner. So he's kind of a good stats, but bad team kind of player. So puts up a lot of empty numbers, but again, he does put up like between 15 to 18 points per game, so that is somewhat respectable. At 19, I have Fred VanVleet, who I don't think will be starting for Toronto, but I think, he proved he earned his stripes in the finals, and I think he's a good sixth man. He reminds me a lot of what JJ Barea was to the 2011 Mavs. I think that's what Fred was to that Raptors team. And I think we can expect averages of like 12 points a game, 5 assists from him next year. I think that's pretty accurate. And just like a good IQ player at this point. So that's why I'm giving him a little bit of a higher spot than I might normally, because he really proved himself in the finals last year. Next at 18, I have Bogdan Bogdanovic for the Sacramento Kings. Good player. Can shoot pretty well, can get his own shot a little bit. Not a very good defender, but very good shooter. And he's going to be good for 13 points per game, probably. But yeah, just like exactly what you want in a six-man, basically, for this team that has a lot of ball-dominant dudes between De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, and Harrison Barnes. He's a dude that can just catch the ball, shoot it, doesn't need to hold the ball much to be effective. Okay, next at 17, I have Jeremy Lamb, who is a dude. I don't know what I think of him really. He's always supposed to be better than he is, sort of thing, and I think he'll come off the bench for the Pacers and be a good sixth man, but he'll probably average 12 points per game, maybe more depending on how long Oladipo's out for. He might even start a little bit since Oladipo will be out, but I've never been totally confident in this dude, so that's why I have him a little bit lower than others might. He can't really create his own shot. He's more of like a catch and shoot dude, but he's not like an elite catch and shoot dude for that being the only thing he does effectively on offense. So he kind of ends up just lost in translation, sort of. And on defense, he's okay, but he could stand to be a little bit taller to be more of an effective defender guarding shooting guards, because I think he's only 6'5", and that's a little bit short for a shooting guard. Okay, at 16, getting to our halfway point here, I have Marvin Williams of the Charlotte Hornets, a dude who's done a good job of going from a small forward in the 2000s NBA to a stretch four in the modern NBA, much like PJ Tucker and others have done. Marvin Williams, a very good shooter and a good defender, and that's pretty good for a six-man. He's basically what PJ Tucker is, but he'll be coming off the bench, so that's why I have him right here. 15, Rodney Hood, a very good scorer and a dude who's underrated, I think. He could play some shooting guard or small forward. He's 6'8", so he's got good size. He can create shot off the dribble, just shot creation is his main asset here. Not a great shooter, but shot creation he can do. He can penetrate and score. An average defender, but really the shot creation is where he comes into being valuable for the Blazers. Okay, 14, Dion Waiters for the Heat. Inefficient volume scorer, but on a team that sometimes lacks offense, that's exactly what you need. So that's why I have Dion Waiters right here for the Heat again. Let's hope that he can get that field goal percentage more to like 45% rather than down in the 40, 41, 42 percentage though. Also, be interesting to see with Jimmy Butler now on the team how Dion Waiters reacts to that and how his shots alter based on that. Okay, at number 13, we have Terrence Ross. I like Terrence Ross a lot. I thought he had a really good year last year. He's an above average defender. He's really athletic and wiry, and he can ball handle somewhat. He can create off the dribble somewhat. He can shoot it somewhat. It's kind of like a dude who he can do everything well and above average, but nothing good, sort of thing. He can do everything above average, but nothing good. That's exactly how I define him. But a very useful dude to have for Orlando. You could play him at the 2 or the 3, and he's versatile. Okay, number 12 for the Celtics, I have Enes Kanter. One of the best low post scorers in the league, but one of the most atrocious defenders in the league. He is a good rebounder too, though. But yeah, he kind of balances out because as good as he is on offense, that's how bad he is on defense. So you can't put him that much higher than this on this rankings list. He might start at some point for the Celtics, but considering that basically he hasn't started consistently for a team since 2014. Yes, you heard me right. Since 2014, he hasn't consistently started for a team. Based on that trend, I have him coming off the bench for the Celtics. Okay, number 11, Jabari Parker for the Hawks. You might be thinking this is way too high for Jabari, but I think this Hawks situation is perfect for him. It's low stress, low pressure, it's fast paced, and that's good for a dude who's going to be playing power forward mostly, I would guess. Probably when John Collins slots over at the 5, then you'll have Jabari in at the 4. A dude who just loves to score, and that's really what he does best, and he doesn't really do anything else well. And so he has that opportunity on this Hawks team. DeAndre Hunter is more of a defender than an offensive player. So as a rookie, it won't be like he'll be saying, I need 15 shots per night or anything. And this Jabari Parker will probably be the third scorer on this team after Collins and Trae Young, but I would expect him to put up 15 points per game roughly. And I think that he'll have a pretty good bounce back year here if he can stay healthy. Rounding into our top 10, RJ Barrett for the Knicks. I expect he could start at some point, but I think it'd be wiser for them to bring him off the bench. He has shown an ability to be a very good scorer in college. We'll have to see. I had a little bit of hesitation ranking him higher than this just because he's an unknown, but he's supposed to be the next big thing. I heard somebody the other day reminded me that when we were going into this last year, like a year ago right now, the talk of the town was not Zion. The talk of the town was RJ Barrett. I often forget that, but now that I think about it, I do recall that, but it's just weird to think of a time like that. But he's supposed to be the next big thing. He's supposed to average 18 points per game this year, something in that range, so we'll have to see how he does. At 9, I have Dennis Schroeder. Dude should really be starting for an NBA team, but he'll be the backup behind Chris Paul. Not a great shooter, but he does everything else pretty well. Kind of like, think of Rajon Rondo in his prime, and then think of like a light version of that. That's what Dennis Schroeder is, basically. So light version of prime Rajon Rondo. At 8, JJ Redick, who I believe will come off the bench for the Pelicans. Good spot up catch and release shooter. He's going to score 15 points per game, not give you anything on defense, not going to be able to create his own shot, but he can come off of down screens, he can come off of pins, and he can flare up around, catch balls, and shoot them from the arc. So that's what he's going to do for this Pelicans team, and he's going to score 15 points per game, probably on 25 to 30 minutes a night. Number 7, Spencer Dinwiddie. Really tall for a point guard. I like that a lot. He's like 6'5", 6'6". Can create his own shot, which is valuable. He can play some shooting guard when him and Kyrie are both in games, so that'll be valuable. Yeah, he can shoot it average, and on defense, his size makes him a little bit of a better than mediocre defender. I'd say he's average on defense, but his shot creation is really what puts him high up here for me. Okay, at 6, I have Eric Gordon for the Rockets. Can create his own shot a bit, not a good defender, but can create his own shot a bit and can shoot threes really well. And he's just very good on offense. And so that's why I have him up this high. And if you need more of an explanation, well, go watch an Eric Gordon highlight reel from the last couple of years, or in 2016 to 17 when he won Sixth Man of the Year. So there you go. Okay, number 5, Derrick Rose, a dude who really should be starting for this Pistons team, but he'll come off the bench because I think he's slotting really well into sort of like a primary scorer on a second unit, like he was with the Wolves a lot of the time. I think that's where he really will shine. He can basically be better than almost any backup point guard in the league. So when he's going against guys in the second unit, he'll almost always be better than them. Whereas if he were starting, then he'd be right in the middle of the league as far as being the best. But for this team, he'll be one of the. He's probably, you could argue, he's the best backup point guard in the league. He's in the conversation at least. So that's why I have him up this high. You know, last year he improved on his shooting. It went down during the second half of the year, but he did improve to like 38% from three. And then he, of course, creates masterfully off the dribble, so he's pretty high here. At number 4, Tim Hardaway Jr. for the Mavs. Can shoot it really well, can create his own shot, is mediocre to average on defense. Kind of same old song and dance for a lot of these players, but he just does it better than a lot of the other guys, and I expect him to score about 17 points a night on this team on good shooting splits, or at least good for a shooting guard. At number 3, Kyle Kuzma. I think he'll be really good off the bench for the Lakers. I think he'll be exactly what they need off the bench. 16 points per night, take some pressure off of AD and LeBron. Can create his own shot, can catch some spot ups pretty well. He's 6'9", so that's decent size for a dude that might be playing some small forward. But he's really like your modern power forward. He's kind of like, I'm trying to think of a good comparison. A poor man's Rashard Lewis is what Kyle Kuzma is. That's the best comparison I can come up with. So he can kind of do some of everything on offense and nothing really special on defense. Number 2, Lou Williams. Yes, only at number 2. Well, you'll have to stay in tune for number 1. 3-time winner of the Sixth Man of the Year. Last year he was the best offensive player on the Clippers team coming off of the bench. Can score in these tricky ways where you're saying like this dude is 6 feet tall, 6'1". How is he scoring 20 points a night over usually taller defenders? He just finds a way. He is really good at creating his own shots for himself, and he can do a little bit of setting other guys up, and he can do a little bit of that distribution, but not much. But yeah, just creating shots for himself. He's an okay shooter, not a great one, but really penetration is where he's good, and that's what's so surprising for a dude who is on his tallest days, 6'1". On defense, he's pretty bad, but on offense, he's a dynamite player. Number 1, D'Angelo Russell. I believe this is keeping in mind once Klay comes back halfway through the year, I think that D'Angelo will be a 6th man. I am presuming that they keep him and don't trade him, so that's why he's number 1 here. So bear that in mind. I know that there's tons of rumors, oh, he'll be traded a few months in so that they can get a better starting center or small forward or something. Well, I'm presuming that he stays on the Warriors for the full year, and when Klay comes back, he would be the 6th man. And he's basically an all-star who would be coming off the bench at that point, so that makes him the best. He can shoot it well, he can penetrate okay. He usually needs pick and rolls to help him penetrate because he isn't explosive off the dribble, so he can't just like penetrate, blow past the dude, or have a nasty crossover to get past the guy and score. He has this really weird game in that like he likes the mid-range a lot, which is odd for a modern player, but you know, he makes it work. And if you haven't seen much of him, go watch some highlights because he had a really impressive year last year. And defense, he's mediocre, but offense, he's dynamite. So there you have it, guys. That's my list of all the 6 men in the NBA, 30-1. Let me know your thoughts or leave any comments below if you have any, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.